When police officer David Martinez pulled over the elegant woman in the black Mercedes for speeding, he expected a routine traffic stop. What he discovered about her identity in the next 10 minutes would change his career forever and challenge everything he thought he knew about the people he encounters on duty. The woman stepped out of her luxury sedan wearing a cream blazer and carrying herself like someone who belonged in boardrooms, not on the side of a desert highway. Officer Martinez had no idea he was about to meet the most powerful philanthropist in Arizona, or that she had been getting pulled over by police officers on purpose for the past 6 months. Dear viewers, before we dive into this incredible story of hidden identities and life-changing encounters, please take a moment to like and subscribe. Your support helps us share more amazing true stories that remind us never to judge a book by its cover. Officer David Martinez had been patrolling the highways around Phoenix, Arizona for 12 years. At 42, he considered himself an experienced cop who had seen it all: drunk drivers, drug runners, stolen vehicles, and every type of person you could imagine behind the wheel. But on that scorching Tuesday afternoon in July, he was about to encounter someone who would completely shatter his assumptions about people and change his perspective on life forever. The black Mercedes S was traveling eastbound on Interstate 10, moving slightly above the speed limit through the desert landscape. Officer Martinez clocked it at 78 mph in a 65 mph zone, not excessive, but enough to warrant a stop. As he activated his lights and pulled the luxury sedan over to the shoulder, he mentally prepared for what he assumed would be a routine traffic citation. The woman who emerged from the driver's seat was striking in a way that immediately commanded attention. She appeared to be in her early 50s, with silver-streaked hair elegantly styled, wearing a tailored cream-colored blazer over dark slacks, and carrying herself with the poise of someone accustomed to boardrooms and important meetings. Her jewelry was understated but clearly expensive, and her entire appearance suggested wealth and sophistication. "Good afternoon, ma'am," Officer Martinez said as he approached, his tone professional but already mentally categorizing her as another privileged driver who thought the rules didn't apply to her. "I stopped you because you were exceeding the speed limit. May I see your driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance?" The woman smiled warmly, reaching into an expensive leather handbag. "Of course, officer. I apologize if I was going too fast. I was lost in thought and wasn't paying close attention to my speedometer." Her voice carried a slight accent that Martinez couldn't immediately place, and her manner was polite but confident. As she handed over her documents, Martinez noticed her hands were perfectly manicured but showed signs of hard work, small scars and calluses that seemed inconsistent with her otherwise pristine appearance. The license identified her as Elena Rodriguez, age 53, with an address in Scottsdale's most exclusive neighborhood. "Mrs. Rodriguez," Martinez began, glancing between the license and the woman, "I'm going to write you a citation for exceeding the posted speed limit." "The fine will be—" "Officer Martinez," she interrupted gently, reading his name tag. "May I ask you something personal?" The question caught him off guard. Most people in traffic stops were either argumentative or trying to talk their way out of a ticket. This woman seemed genuinely interested in conversation. "I suppose that depends on what you want to know," he replied cautiously. "Do you enjoy your work? Do you feel like you're making a real difference in people's lives?" Martinez blinked, surprised by the depth of the question. "Most days, yes, ma'am. It's not always easy, but I try to serve my community." Elena nodded thoughtfully. "I can see that in how you carry yourself. You have the bearing of someone who takes responsibility seriously." She paused, studying his face. "Have you ever considered what you might do if you weren't in law enforcement?" The conversation was taking such an unexpected turn that Martinez found himself answering honestly. "I've always been interested in working with at-risk youth, maybe coaching or mentoring, but the pay isn't there and I have a family to support." "Ah," Elena said, her eyes lighting up with understanding. "The eternal struggle between following your passion and meeting your obligations." Something about the way she said it made Martinez look at her more carefully. There was a depth of experience in her voice, as if she spoke from personal knowledge of difficult choices. Mrs. Rodriguez, I need to ask, is everything all right? You seem, I don't know, like you have something on your mind. Elena was quiet for a long moment, looking out at the desert landscape. When she spoke again, her voice carried a weight that hadn't been there before. Officer Martinez, have you ever heard of the Rodriguez Foundation? Martinez searched his memory. The name was familiar, but he couldn't place it immediately. I think so. Some kind of charity organization. The largest private foundation in Arizona focused on at-risk youth programs, Elena said quietly. We fund mentorship programs, job training, educational scholarships, and intervention services for teenagers in the juvenile justice system. Last year alone, we distributed over $15 million in grants. Martinez felt a chill of recognition. The Rodriguez Foundation was legendary in law enforcement circles. Their programs had dramatically reduced recidivism rates and had been credited with transforming entire communities. Every cop in the state knew about their work, even if they'd never connected it to a specific individual. You work for the Rodriguez Foundation? Martinez asked, though something in Elena's manner suggested a deeper connection. Elena smiled sadly. I don't work for it, Officer Martinez. I am it. I founded the Rodriguez Foundation 23 years ago, and I've been running it ever since. The words hit Martinez like a physical blow. He was looking at one of the most influential philanthropists in the state, a woman whose foundation had probably impacted the lives of thousands of kids he'd encountered in his career. I'm sorry, Miss Rodriguez. I had no idea. Please don't apologize, Elena said, raising her hand. I prefer it this way. When people know who I am, they treat me differently. They want something from me, or they're intimidated, or they put on a performance. I'd rather meet people as just Elena, not as the Rodriguez Foundation lady. Martinez was struggling to process this revelation. But why are you telling me this now? Elena's expression grew more serious. Because I think you should know that the work you do, the real work, not just writing traffic tickets, it matters more than you realize. 3 weeks ago, I attended a graduation ceremony for kids completing one of our mentorship programs. Do you know how many of them mentioned positive interactions with police officers as turning points in their lives? Martinez shook his head, genuinely curious. 17 out of 23, Elena continued. Officers who took time to talk to them as human beings instead of just problems to be managed. Officers who showed them respect even when they were making mistakes. Officers who helped them see that authority figures could be allies instead of enemies. The words struck deep. Martinez thought about the hundreds of interactions he'd had with young people over the years, some positive, some not. He'd never considered the long-term impact of those moments. Mrs. Rodriguez, why are you really telling me that? Elena reached into her handbag and pulled out a business card, but not the kind Martinez expected. Instead of elegant printing and corporate logos, it was handwritten on plain cardstock. Because, she said, handing him the card, I've been driving around the state for the past 6 months, getting pulled over by police officers in different jurisdictions. Martinez looked at the card, confused. It simply had Elena's name and a phone number written in careful script. Getting pulled over on purpose, sometimes on purpose, sometimes by happy accident, like today, Elena admitted. I'm working on a new initiative, a program that would embed social workers and youth counselors directly with police departments, not to replace officers, but to work alongside them. I wanted to meet cops in their natural environment, see how they interact with people, understand what challenges they face. Martinez stared at her. You've been conducting field research by getting traffic tickets. Elena laughed, and the sound was surprisingly warm and genuine. It sounds crazy when you put it like that, doesn't it? But I've learned more about policing in 6 months than I did in 20 years of attending police foundation meetings and charity dinners. And what have you learned? That most officers are like you, decent people trying to do a difficult job with limited resources and not nearly enough support, that the system asks you to be social workers, mental health counselors, family mediators, and law enforcement officers all at once. That many of you care deeply about the communities you serve but feel frustrated by the constraints you work within. Martinez felt a strange mixture of validation and vulnerability. This wealthy philanthropist had somehow articulated frustrations he'd carried for years but never quite knew how to express. "Mrs. Rodriguez, I appreciate what you're saying, but I'm still not sure why you're sharing this with me specifically." Elena pointed to the business card in his hand. "Because I think you might be interested in helping me design this new program. Your background, your obvious care for young people, your thoughtful approach to this conversation, you're exactly the kind of officer I need to work with." Martinez looked at the card again, then back at Elena. "You're offering me a job. I'm offering you an opportunity to use your experience in law enforcement to help create something that could change how police and communities interact. You'd still be in public service, still working with at-risk youth, but from a different angle." The offer was so unexpected that Martinez didn't know how to respond. Mrs. Rodriguez, I don't know what to say." "Say you'll think about it," Elena replied. "Call me when you're ready to learn more." And Officer Martinez? "Yes, ma'am." "Keep the citation book closed today. Consider this a research interview that went both ways." Martinez laughed, despite himself. "I can't just let you drive away without a ticket." "You were speeding." "Fair enough," Elena said with a grin. "But make it a warning. I promise to watch my speedometer more carefully in the future." As Martinez wrote up the warning citation, his mind was racing. This chance encounter had gone so far beyond anything he could have imagined when he'd first spotted the black Mercedes. "Mrs. Rodriguez, can I ask you one more question?" "Of course." "How did you know I was the right person to talk to about this? I mean, you could have been pulled over by any officer today." Elena considered the question seriously. "Honestly, I didn't know. But in our first few minutes of conversation, you showed curiosity instead of judgment. You listened instead of just talking, and you treated me with respect, even when you thought I was just another speeding driver. Those are exactly the qualities I'm looking for." She paused, looking directly at Martinez. "Plus, you asked if I was okay. Not many people do that anymore." As Elena prepared to get back into her Mercedes, Martinez found himself hoping this wasn't the last time they'd speak. "Miss Rodriguez, I have to ask, how many other officers have you had conversations like this with?" "You're number 47, she replied with a smile, "but you're the first one I've offered my card to." Martinez watched as the black Mercedes pulled back onto the interstate, completely reframed his understanding of the interaction. What had started as a routine traffic stop had become one of the most meaningful conversations of his career. 2 weeks later, Officer David Martinez found himself sitting in the elegant offices of the Rodriguez Foundation, discussing how his decade of police experience could help bridge the gap between law enforcement and community social services. The program they developed together would eventually be implemented in 12 states and credited with reducing youth crime rates by 30% in participating communities. But more than that, the encounter had reminded Martinez why he'd become a police officer in the first place: not to issue citations or make arrests, but to serve his community and help make people's lives better. Sometimes the most important moments in our lives come disguised as routine encounters. Sometimes the person who changes everything is someone we almost dismissed at first glance. And sometimes the most meaningful conversations happen on the side of a desert highway between two strangers who took the time to see each other as human beings. If this story inspired you to look beyond first impressions and remember that everyone has a story worth hearing, please like and share this video. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing true stories about unexpected encounters and the power of human connection. Remember, You never know when a routine moment might become the catalyst for something extraordinary. The next person you meet might just change your life if you're open to the possibility.